Hello, this is MattiAce, and this is going to turn into a relatively long video where I was actually inspired to make this video from one of Rel's recent videos. It's called Lacking Perspective. The link to that video is going to be found in the description below my video. I'm sure you, or most of you guys, are familiar with Rel. Now, being that Planetside 2 is a very unique game in the sense that you have a lot of different playstyles and the factions are relatively different from each other compared to what you find in other games. Because of that, you have a lot of discussions, balanced discussions that is. And one of the biggest problems that me and many of us have discovered is to understand what it's like from another person's point of view. That is, for example, if you are an infantry player and you hate air, what is it like to be a pilot? Maybe you focus your gameplay on the maxes, and you think it's too easy for tankers to kill you. Stuff like that. So now, unlike what Rel did, he brought in real life into this his video. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it only to the game, even though the introduction of Rel's video was really interesting. So now, one of the most discussed topics in the Planetside 2 community is of course the air gameplay. Air versus anti-air, air versus infantry, ace pilots versus new pilots, and some such. So since I have been very active in this discussion and I have been very unhappy with the recent nerfs to ESFs and the recent buffs to anti-air, I've been accused very much from a lot of players that I am very biased, or however you say it. And a lot of people want to point out that I lack understanding of what it's like to play on the ground. Also that I lack understanding for what it's like to be a new player compared to us who are considered veterans. Well, I can assure you I do understand how difficult it is to get into a new game. I even struggle quite a bit when I have to change to another weapon, like in this case, when I'm new to the Pulsar C. So now, I think we all want as many new players to find Planetside 2 and to start playing this game. I'm pretty sure that goes without saying, but I'm saying it anyway. But among all these different playstyles that you have in Planetside 2, there are different playstyles that will take you longer time to master, or at least to do well with. For example, infantry gameplay in Planetside 2. The infantry gameplay is relatively unique. There are many aspects of this game that you will not find in any other game, even if you only focus at infantry. But if you are a very good and a very experienced infantry player, you are going to do well as an infantry player in Planetside 2 as well. And I don't think that learning infantry gameplay in Planetside 2 is all that much harder than it is in other games. There are of course different ways of looking at this, but if you are, for example, above average in Call of Duty, you are most likely going to be above average in Planetside 2. Stuff like that, just generalizations here. Maybe that was a bad example since I've never played Call of Duty, but let's just switch up Call of Duty for the Battlefield games. I also think that, for example, if you have been a very successful tanker in any of the Battlefield games, you are probably going to do relatively good in Planetside 2 as well as a tanker. At least that has been my experience comparing the two games and playing with a lot of players from both games. A big aspect of how well you're going to do and what you define as doing well is of course very individual. You might be a lone wolf type player, or you might want to focus a lot on teamwork. For a lot of players it's really hard to understand what it's like for other players if you choose one playstyle over another, and this will very easily make you bias and make you lose perspective in any balanced discussion. Alright, let's go in. I'll take the point.
Yeah.
Oh, they're coming in from the north.
Yeah. Max. Or? No, no Max. Just kidding.
I got one. That was a good one. Oh yeah, there is a max. Now, if you are one of those players who are only focusing at the PTFO type play style, where you are rushing the point at all times, it might be hard for you to understand what it's like for other players who play the game differently. In that little sequence, I did hang back a little bit to wait for reinforcements. While I did so, a couple of guys jumped down to try to kill me. I was able to pick them off, but had I just rushed the point right away, I would have been alone against like 4 or 5 guys, I think, and I would have been taken out. So now when it comes to balanced discussions among different playstyles, different vehicles, different factions, there are a lot of people who lack perspective, and there are a lot of people who will point out that other people lack perspective, when in fact it might be the other way around. In many cases, not always. I go down.
Yep.
That's clear. Revolver needs to revive. Like most of you guys probably know, I am a very dedicated ESF pilot. I've spent a lot of time learning how to fly, and the thing about ESFs in Planetside 2 is that there are no similarities to ESFs in other games, or at least in any other games that I've ever played, even though I've been flying in several other games before Planetside 2. It has now become relatively common knowledge that flying ESFs is one of the hardest things to do in terms of how much time and effort it takes to learn before you can actually make anything happen as a pilot. One of the things that you have in Planetside 2 is a lot of people that never flies, and then you have some dedicated pilots who only fly. And this is of course the biggest problem in any balanced discussion between air and ground, and between ace pilots and new pilots. So now with the latest nerfs to the dedicated air-to-air nose guns, and with the latest buffs to anti-air, I kind of try to point out that, hey, there are other weapons and playstyles in Planetside 2 that are far more effective, far more powerful, much easier to use and some such. Why is it that the ESFs needed a nerf? Because in my opinion they didn't. I got a lot of strong reactions from a lot of players that kind of pointed out that I lacked perspective. And I had no idea what it was like to play on the ground, for example. I had no idea what it was like to play as infantry, as a tanker, or in a max. There are, of course, also a lot of people that misunderstand some of the stuff that we say only as we are joking around, and people take it seriously as if we mean it. That is probably going to continue to happen. I don't see that ending anytime soon.
Let's kill some noobs.
Yeah. How about that, huh? I'm spamming rockets on infantry. Does that qualify?
Yeah, it qualifies. Almost at my level.
So, one of the things that I have been focusing on the last couple of months in order to gain perspective is my max gameplay. My tanking as well, but actually I've been on and off with my tanking for the whole time that I've been playing Planetside 2. But max, that is new for the last couple of months, I would say. I've uploaded quite a number of videos. I have shared my opinions, and a lot of people have reacted on it. Business as usual. But the things that I pointed out was that it was so much easier even before the nerfs to ESFs to get a lot more kills, get higher kill streaks, and just generally do better with maxes and tanks than with ESFs. What's up? Grenade, Julie! Grenade! Behind you! Behind you, he's behind to the right. Got him. Do you need healing? What the fuck was that sound? Anyway, back on topic. So when I made my max videos, there was a lot of people that want to point out that, yeah, but I'm just playing against bad players, they're all low battle ranks, they're unorganized, and on this and that server you wouldn't stand a chance and you wouldn't do as good, and yada yada yada. Another thing that people wanted to point out is that I was only cherry-picking the best moments in order to make myself look as good as possible, and in order to make these maxes and tanks as strong as I possibly could, and it wasn't really representative of the Planetside 2 gameplay. Now, I do know that if you upload like 2 or 3 videos a week, then it's not that hard to cherry-pick the best moments and probably make yourself look a little bit better than you actually are, but the most experienced players will probably be able to see through that. And with my max gameplay, I did get 4 Arexium medals in about a month and a half. And that is from basically no previous experience with maxes at all. Well, I did have some, but very little. Well, I do handpick all the sequences, but it's not always as easy as it might seem. Like during this gameplay, for example, I wish I had recorded all of it, because it would have made a great video about situational awareness. But unfortunately, I have my shadowplay set to 2 minutes in order for the hard drive not to fill up too fast. But when I was looking back at the killboard here, I had 1, 11 or 12 kill streaks, some such, and right after that a over 20 kill streak. That was while running around and reviving my teammates. So now, luckily, in terms of perspective, I happen to be one of those players who enjoy a lot of different playstyles. I have enjoyed infantry gameplay as one of my main playstyles for quite a number of years actually, and flying, well, you all know about that, I'm sure of. One of the things that I paid attention to quite a bit lately in the discussions when it had to do with tanks and maxes was that I lack perspective, I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm very biased because I don't know what it's like to be in a max, in a tank, or as an infantry player. And a number of these players have, well, literally been writing walls of text trying to explain to me how easy it is for an ESF to get a lot of kills and how hard it is to be a tanker. So as I was reading the responses on all these threads, I started to wonder, what the hell are these guys talking about? Are they even talking about Planetside 2? And I realized, let me check out their stats just to see how much experience they have with these different playstyles, different weapons, different vehicles, air versus ground and some such. And normally I don't want to put any focus on statistics or anything, but in this case I was like, let me just take a look. And it turns out that a lot of these players that were flaming me the most about my threads about balance between air and ground, they had like less than 100 kills with their ESFs. Some of them did have a few hundreds and maybe one or two had a bit more. Yet thousands, if not over 10,000 kills with their tanks. And that's when I started realizing, okay, lack of perspective and bias. And the funny thing about it was how they constantly reminded me about how I was the one lacking perspective. So now there are a lot of players that spend a lot more time playing on the ground than I do. That much is true. But I think I've spent enough time on the ground to get a grasp of the difference between air and ground and having a basic understanding of some of the balance issues. So now when it comes to my experience with ground gameplay, some such, I have about 4,000 kills with my Prowler, 2,000 kills with my Lightning, talking about my main character, my main TR here. I think I'm over 5,000 with my Max, about 3,500 kills with the Track 5. I've Reximed several other regular infantry weapons. I've got about 2,000 kills with the Mag Rider, 1,000 kills with my Vanu Lightning, and I'm not really sure about my NC, but I did play quite a bit of. I played very differently on my NC since I was in Consortium Outfit, and that is a big outfit that before each ops, which happened basically every day, takes a while to get organized in Warpgate, and a lot of the base captures were not all that intensive. We also used to end some of the ops with something called the Flash Death Race, where we just drive basically over the entire continent in order to see who is able to survive. Stuff like that. A lot of players seem to not know that I have actually been part of a big organized outfit, playing in a way that is very similar to other big outfits. Shit, I fell down.
Okay.
What?
Okay, jump.
But the thing of it is, when it comes to infantry, is that most of my gaming buddies from other games, the Battlefield series especially, almost all of them are infantry players. And some of them, they actually did play this game for a while, and we did mainly play infantry when we did. But they quickly got bored of this game. And at the time, the biggest issue was the lack of performance in terms of FPS. Now, this has been fixed to some degree, but it has been replaced with login issues, crashes, and freeze lags instead. So it's basically that when one problem was fixed, it was replaced with another problem, or several, should I say. Now, some people might react on this and say, like, yeah, but you're not going to gain anything from just whining about problems and just complaining all the time. But the thing of it is that if you're not honest about something, if you're trying to recruit people and saying that, yeah, this game is great, you have no problems, you should play it, it's so much fun, and then they can barely log in, it's freezing, and you have all these issues, then eventually people are going to stop listening to you. They're not going to believe you when you say something is good, or when you try to recruit them or whatever. You're just not going to have any more credibility. And I want more players to play this game, but I can't be lying for it. But those kinds of problems are a different kind. It's not something that you can have much of a discussion about as a player. I mean, you can point out how important it is to fix, but that's basically it, as far as I know. But the balance discussions, though, that's something that discussing, I think, is very important. And one of the things that I have reacted on is that it seems that a lot of players have this belief that just because a player is new to a game, you automatically want to have an easy weapon rather than trying to learn. Now, I do understand that some people want that, but if you put too many weapons and playstyles into a game that are very easy to use and they are very, very strong, then you're going to have something that is called foo strategies in a video called Balancing for Skill. As funny as it is, this is a video that has been thrown at me so many times in the balance discussions, and every time I watch the video, I just get reminded more and more about how that video actually underlines basically everything I say. Because if, for example, the Tomcat lock-on missiles gets too powerful, then eventually you're gonna see players like me and Becky flying around with them as well. That is, if we are still playing the game. And for a lot of the less experienced pilots, there will be no reason to try to improve or learn the game more in depth, because there really is no point to it. The easy mode weapons are so strong that learning and improving doesn't really serve any purpose. What happens is that the game will become boring, and a lot of these players are going to try to find something else to play. And that is something that I believe is a big problem with Planetside 2. What is the fun in trying to improve your infantry gameplay if you constantly die to maxes and splash damage from tanks? Now, this has of course been the arguments for nerfing air to ground and buffing anti-air, because in the past we have seen air being too dominant. But the thing is that a lot of the problems with why air was overpowered or why air did better than other playstyles, a lot of these issues have been fixed. One of the main problems was that there was really no incentive to upgrade anti-air. The bonus that you get from just damaging aircrafts didn't exist until it took like half a year after launch. There was something very, very stupid in the game in the beginning called Deconstruct that allowed you to just deconstruct a damaged vehicle instantly before it was destroyed, therefore denying the points to the one damaging it. It was of course also much more valuable to upgrade, let's say, anti-infantry weapons on your max or on your lightnings rather than anti-air, for the reason that you just got more kills and more XP using those types of weapons. Now, the most important and the best change to anti-air that I've seen is giving more incentive to use it. That was a correct balance change, and it had a big impact on the game. But when it comes to especially the weapon rocket pods of the ESF, there is a massive psychological issue with this specific weapon. And that is that people react so much stronger when they die to rocket pods especially. So now when the rocket pods was the strongest during beta and in the early parts of this game, I was mainly playing NC, focusing on infantry, and after constantly hearing all this flame about the rocket pods, I eventually started asking players after the ops, how many times or how many players did get killed by rocket pods? How many times did you get killed if you did get killed? And normally the answer was 0. And we did not even have anti-air in our basic unit composition. It was normally 1 or 2 medics, 1 or 2 engineers, sometimes 1 infiltrator, and the rest was heavy assaults. And these ops lasted 4 hours, and this was on the server where Daddy had all his kill streaks that everybody was talking about. Funny with that guy Daddy, it's like people talked about him and I had no idea who they were talking about, and then I finally realized, oh, he's that TR guy that plays on our server. Yeah, that's the guy that always bails out, deconstructs and logs off every time I'm about to kill him. Just shoot at him a little bit and then he's gone. Now Miller was a bit different compared to Cobalt. Miller has always been very Terran-sided, at least in the past. I'm not sure about the last couple of months. I've heard it's shifted a bit. But for the first year of Planetside 2, it was very Terran-favored in terms of population. This has, of course, favored air quite a bit, but the fact is that air has almost always only been dangerous when it is uncontested, which normally is when there is some heavy population imbalances, or basically in battles that are already won. But the thing of every playstyle is that there is always going to be very good players, very bad players, and everything in between. But lack of perspective has always been one of the biggest problems when it comes to balancing air and ESFs and rocket pods particularly, because while there were some people that were able to do really well with them, a lot of players would point out that they are overpowered while they themselves couldn't do anywhere near as good, and as a matter of fact they would do much better themselves in tanks and maxes, for example, or as pure infantry. So another very long video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be very interested in your feedback. This might turn into a very interesting discussion. Main questions is going to be, do we want more and more and stronger easy mode weapons? And if so, what effect is that going to have on the game? Is it going to have the wanted effect of bringing a lot of new players into the game? What's going to happen with the long-term goals of keeping players interested in the game? And some such. Let me know what you think. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and bye for now. Man, if only I had the rocket pods now, then I would be swimming in Zeus.